Welcome back, guys, to Broken Sword, the Shadow of the Templars. We went to see Jacques Marquet in a hospital. We asked him what to do with the German search, but he croaked it. Some guy killed him. A bogus doctor killed him, and we're back in Nico's apartment to discuss what the fuck just happened.
Have you ever heard of the Hashashin?
No.
Marquet said that they were his biggest enemy.
His biggest enemy was the bogus doctor.
Don't remind me. That guy was evil. He had wild, staring eyes like a dead fish. I'll never trust a doctor again. Do you think the assassin was responsible for killing Marquet?
I don't think so. He could have finished him off the first time. Besides, Marquet would have recognized him.
He was pumped to the gills with sedatives. He wouldn't have recognized the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse unless they'd introduced themselves.
What else have you found out about the Templars, Nico?
Have you found out any more about the Knights Templar?
Yes, I have. The guy responsible for their downfall was Philip IV, the King of France, otherwise known as Philippe le Bel. Well, he is known to history as Philippe the Fair, but I doubt if the Templars called him that. I'm sure André will tell you all about him.
So let's head back to the museum where Marquet claimed to have found a tripod.
I guess I'd better go back and talk to that weirdo.
Which one, Rousseau or Sergeant Mou? Oh, but you're referring to André.
I'll let you work it out.
Let's go back to the museum, talk to Andre, and see what we can do with that tripod. It seems very, very important, and it's led us to Ireland and such. So let's go to the museum, Musée Crune, as it's called on this map here. So let's head inside.
You have left it very late, monsieur.
Late for what?
Anything? I am closing the museum soon. You wouldn't like to get locked in. I can tell you. Not in this gallery.
Why not?
It is haunted, monsieur.
You don't believe in ghosts, surely.
Oh, yes, I do. 7 years ago, a lad managed to hide in here. He'd made a bet with his friends, I suppose. When I found him in the morning, he was cold as ice and stiff as a board.
Well, what was the cause of death?
They said it was a brain tumor, but on his face was a look of stark, desperate terror such as I have never seen before.
Scary.
That is actually quite creepy.
Forget it.
So let's talk to Andre Lobino.
Hi, Andre.
Hello.
Hello, Georgie.
What can you tell me about the Hashashin?
Have you ever heard of the Hashashin?
Why, yes, it was a radical Muslim sect whose name became synonymous with murder. It was formed in 11th century Persia, shortly before the Crusades.
At roughly the same time as the Templars.
Yes, they gave a new word to our language, Assassini, the assassin.
How did the assassins get their name?
From the legend surrounding the secrets of their initiation rites. A young man who sought to join the sect was given hashish until he drifted into dreams. He awoke to find himself in a fabulous garden with everything he could wish for. The freshest water, the most delicious food, the choicest hash, and the most delectable women imaginable.
Cool. Do you have the address?
I haven't finished the story. There was a price to pay for this taste of paradise.
Wouldn't you just know it?
The young man would wake the next day to find himself back in the real world. He was told that he'd been given a glimpse of the heaven reserved for holy martyrs. A heaven he would enjoy for eternity if he was willing to join the Hashashin.
How did the assassins operate?
Well, as I explained, the new recruits would be only too willing to die for the cause. They'd be instructed in the use of the dagger, poisons, and disguise. Then the Grand Master of the sect would name an enemy of Allah.
And they'd stop at nothing to eliminate that enemy.
You got it. They were fearless and deadly.
Does the cult of the Assassin still exist?
Take a look around at the world today. You tell me.
Well, sorry guys, more of a history lesson I'm afraid, but we have to find out more.
What can you tell me about Philippe le Bel?
He was responsible for the extermination of the Knights Templar.
I know that, but why was Philip so hot to get rid of them?
Mostly because he wanted to get his hands on their treasure. He had an enormous debt and a lifelong war with England to fund. The trouble was, the Templars were a highly respected holy order.
If the Templars were so powerful, how did this Philippe dude wipe them out?
By underhanded, dishonorable means, of course. The Pope was Clement V, a Frenchman.
French, huh? Handy for Philippe.
Fate had nothing to do with it. He was Philippe's puppet, planted to further his political ambitions. Philippe wanted the wealth of the Templars and used Clement to get it.
So what was Philippe's plan? What happened?
Sealed orders were sent out all over France, not to be opened until the appointed day. That day was Friday, July 13th. That's the origin of our superstition regarding that date. At dawn, throughout the whole of France, the Templars were arrested. It was the biggest bust in the history of the world.
What happened to the Templars after their arrest?
Philippe was out for blood, so he handed the Templars over to the Inquisition. Not surprisingly, they confessed to a sensational and sordid list of blasphemy.
Like what?
Oh, the sort of things you read about in the gutter press. Devil worship, lewd sexual practices, spitting on the Holy Cross, that kind of thing.
Well, that must have given their lawyers some headaches.
Whether or not the accusations were true, this was not good publicity. Most of the charges were probably cooked up, but so were the Templars, literally. Hundreds of them were found guilty of heresy and flame-grilled at the stake. They died protesting their innocence.
But surely Philippe had no proof of his charges against the Templars.
A man will admit anything under torture. The Inquisition fabricated some nonsensical demon called Baphomet, and then suggested to their victims that this was what they worshipped.
But they didn't have to agree.
The records show a Templar coming to trial with both feet burned off, fragments of flesh and charred bone falling from the stumps. What would you not admit to stop such torment?
So there was no truth at all in the Baphomet accusations?
Not a shred. Almost every victim described the idol differently. No, Baphomet never existed outside the sick minds of the Inquisitors.
So Philippe stole the Templars' riches, huh?
Oh no, they weren't stupid. The king's troops marched first on the temple in Paris, then to the Templar home port at La Rochelle. There was no trace of the treasure, and the fleet of the Knights Templar had set sail.
Well, guys, we just had a nice history lesson yet again from Andre, enlightening us on some unanswered questions and such. Kind of boring, I apologize for that, but we really do need to know these things.
I think you ought to know that the tripod is going to be stolen.
The Lochman tripod? No.
It's true. I can give you a description of the thieves.
Before the supposed event has taken place?
I heard them planning the raid.
They're wasting their time. The tripod is protected by a state-of-the-art alarm system.
Well, don't say I didn't warn you. Why don't you loan the tripod to me for safekeeping?
Because I'd never see it again.
But don't you trust me?
It's not a question of trust, George. That tripod is hundreds of years old and extremely fragile.
I get your point. Thanks for your help, Andre.
You're welcome.
Well, guys, I think I'll wrap things up with that history lesson there. A fairly boring part, I have to admit, but interesting nonetheless. You know, we got some unanswered questions and stuff. So I can assure you guys that the next part is very exciting. George could die in the next part. Yeah, guys, stay tuned. See you soon.